a section called, and we are recording as well. So thank you for that. We are recording. Towards the end of the session, we'll be getting into some curiosities and possibilities, where we'll have an opportunity to ask some questions around maybe something we heard, something we're still curious about, and then hear from not only our panelists, but maybe from each other around the possibilities around those questions and curiosities. So that's what we are going to do today. And I would like to jump right in now and start with our panelists, Rosa Kelly and Deborah Carter Kelly. We want to ask the first question: who are you, right? What is your role, like your title, your role? What school do you partner with, and what grade levels? So Rosa, if you'd like to start, that would be great.
Yes, hi everyone. So my name is Rosa Gonzalez, and I, for 12 plus years, was a family center director at San Pedro School in San Rafael, and that's a school from TK through 5th grade. Yes.
Thank you. Kelly.
Hi, good morning, everyone. My name is Callie Silk. I'm the community outreach liaison, and I partner with AP Giannini Middle School in San Francisco in the Outer Sunset.
Thank you. Ms. Carter Kelly.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Deborah Carter Kelly. I am the parent liaison at Oakland Technical High School, where we service approximately 2,000 scholars.
2,000. Want to hear about that family engagement. Exciting. So this is a question for all of our panelists now, and hopefully a curiosity. What are your practices to engage families? What are the key ingredients? What's the secret sauce specifically at each of your grade levels to engage families?
I'll start, John. So making the students and families be valued and connected to school. And by doing this, it's being consistent, reliable, open, honest with the students and families, knowing their story, connecting, knowing their backgrounds and stories, and being cultural sensitive and also trauma informed. That makes it easier to connect to families and connect the families to school and students as well. Yes.
Thank you for sharing that. Callie, any feedback? How do you engage? What's your secret sauce?
How I always approach relationships with families is I always try to keep it focused on strength-based. All families look and operate differently, but all families have strengths and skills that engagement coordinators and staff can help build upon. So caregivers and families feel really empowered. This is all relationship-based work, in my opinion. It's all very heart-centered. So building trust is the key thing there to really affect change. We got to meet families where they're at. And meeting them where they're at means seeing their strengths first, because they are the expert on their child, and we're there to support. So a lot of accessibility, a lot of FaceTime if possible, as much communication as possible. Yeah, like I said, just meeting people where they're at.
Thank you. Deborah. Anyways, 2,000 families. Whew.
Yeah, it is a very large school. Absolutely. Our leader, our principal this year, his main thing is a measure of integrity. And one of the things that, that we look at specifically in terms of our practices engaging families, just as Rosa and Callie has said, is that it is about realizing, I think, that this is a system that we're in, and this system has been fair and unfair to certain populations, across, racial and gender and ethnic, class, all of these kind of boundaries. And so the idea is to realize that there have been some that have been advantaged, there have some that have been disadvantaged. And as they've said, it's about opening up our hearts, leading with integrity, and ensuring that we are not necessarily thinking from the head, but from the heart as we engage for every family. And it is really about that connection and just making sure, as they said, that we are available for one thing. And the other thing for us in terms of a part of that integrity is being consistent. So that's really is what we look at Open Tech.
Thank you. I appreciate that, Rosa, Kelly, and Deborah. Lots of great integrity, communication, relationships, trust, spaces and time, face time. I'm curious to hear from Rosa and Kelly, like, what is the role of expanded learning? Like, what is, all of us here, I believe are from the expanded learning sector. Like, what is our role in ensuring that families feel safe, comfortable, empowered, if you will, right, in the schools? What is our role?
John, I would say, as the name is expanded, so it's continuation of a school day. And so again, after school, as a school day, you need to have, again, the connection with the families to be able to provide the students what they need. Knowing the students, and so again, the relationship, not just with the family, but also with the school personnel, teachers, administration, and then working together for the same goal. So knowing what the school goal is and following through with during the expanded learning. So at the after school program. That makes it easy for the after school to understand students, families, and also to continue what the school has done during the day with the student and the family, do it during after school. And again, relationships, yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think the term co-creator is really powerful and really valuable. Framing each conversation and each opportunity to be in conversation with families. I think using this language and this tone about being, again, co-creators of we are doing this together, we're creating a support system together. And a quote I think about a lot is that children don't grow up in programs, they grow up in communities. And so even though our programs are very important, I feel there's a piece of for families to feel comfortable and empowered, there has to be an awareness around the outside factors that are happening in their lives and, framing how successful their student is, how successful and welcome they feel in the school community. And it can be intimidating for families to come in and to just be like, all right, I'm going to trust this staff member to know the personal stuff that's going on in my life and going on with my kid and how me and my child relate to one another. So yeah, I really think that term co-creation is really important. And that type of tone can be really empowering for families. I don't have all the answers, but we're going to hopefully figure them out together.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. Some in the chat I'm hearing here from Ali, the quality of your life ultimately depends on the quality of your relationships, which are basically a reflection of your sense of decency, your ability to think of others, your generosity. Esther Perot, yes. And I see Darlene, giving kudos to the co-creating, right? Love that. Esther says, love that. They grow up in communities. It takes a village for sure. Absolutely. We did say co-creating, right? And I'm curious, and this is not for us to answer now, thinking about most of us are receiving our program planning tools from our districts as we think about the 24-25 school year. I'd be curious to hear how many of us actually include family members in that process, right? We know the goal is that we include our administrators, our students, hopefully, right? Our team members, some community. I'm curious how many include family members in terms of co-creating that, this as a vehicle as we think about co-creation. Another curiosity, let's think about like expanded learning, family connections, relationships. You know, what types of resources can expanded learning offer to families? And this is, I'm going to put it out to everyone. You know, maybe we start with Ms. Deborah Carter Kelly. Like, what are the types of resources are we responsible for offering family members of students in our schools?
You know, in terms of resources, I think it's important for us to really look at the whole ecosystem of that family, not just the student, but the entire family. And I know that most of us sit on what we call our coordination of services teams. And so through that coordination of services and looking at all of the things that we can offer, I think we have to definitely these days think out of the box a lot. And in terms of thinking out of the box, that is looking at how do we connect with that student or that family. Some of the out of box things that we're looking at is some of the online apps, you know, in terms of assisting families. That's kind of new. Looking at, you know, various community partners, because there may be some limits as to what we can do as a school or as an organization, but there are other maybe outside partners that are able to go to the home at midnight, that are able to go to where the families are. So it is about ensuring that we meet the families where they are. And the other thing that I really like in terms of resources, et cetera, is about just making sure that, you know, we have a local connection, you know, with, you know, the families, but in addition to that, look at the various levels, because what we really try to do at Tech is we really try to make sure that we have multiple levels of touch for not only each student, but also for each family as well.
That's great. Thank you. Thank you for that.
And I would say, Deborah, as an example, during my time as a family center director, when a need arises for family, usually they're shy. They you know, they're not open to come and look for the help. And I'm talking the most needy families that we know that there's something going on and there's need in the home. Making an appointment to visit their home, coming into their home, and make them feel like the school is not here to see what, you know, what's wrong with you, but actually say, how can I help you? How can I, you know, having the relationship with, just say, with the community organizations, and finding out what's their dream for their children, and being able to provide their needs. It's whether it's whatever the stressor is going on at home, helping the parent. It's going to make it easier for the child to thrive at school. So, yeah.
You know, I think it really is about all of us being emotionally safe. And when we are emotionally safe, then parents and families will come to us. And one of the things, John, the final thing I'll say in terms of, you know, one of the things at Tech is that what we really try to do, as I said, in terms of addressing the ecosystem, is just based on whatever the need is, whether that's a basic need. We have a closet with clothes and with food. You know, if it's families that are in high conflict, you know, I coach families that are in high conflict. So, you know, it is just that, as Rosa was saying, it is the entire family, and just making sure that we're emotionally safe so that we are welcoming them and doing some outreach to ensure that we are a safe space for everybody.
And I want to jump on that too. Like a piece of my work is thinking about that outreach, and to Rosa and Miss Deborah's points as well, is like we spend so much time building these relationships that when it's time to look outside of what we're able to offer, it can be intimidating. And I think about, what does it mean to do a warm handoff? It doesn't mean just like, here's a piece of paper with information, go ahead and call them. A lot of times it means sitting down with families and making the call and helping them make the appointment and going through the website and maybe translating some of this language that feels a little bit intimidating. So I really feel like that we're bridge builders in that way, is like we're taking account of all of the environmental pieces and helping do that warm handoff, so that continuation and that consistency of services and trust remains and is built.
And I can give you an example of so we had a family, a single mom that just immigrated from Guatemala with 3 children. The kids were not coming to school, and we were wondering what was happening. So I came over to their home to find out the mom had extreme anxiety. She was so afraid to let the kids out of the house. She was afraid to come out of the house. And so I went in, I introduced myself. I said, I'm here to see how can I help you to make sure that the kids come into school. She opened up, she told me her story. Of course, being a victim of domestic violence, fleeing her husband, running away from her husband, and keeping herself safe and the children safe. And in the process, her anxiety level got really high. And she didn't know what to do. She didn't know where to go. She had no clue. So we sat together, we made calls to find therapy for her. For the children, the oldest child, I asked, like, anytime that you can't come to school because of the bus. Okay, so the school that I used to be, it's 5 miles away from the neighborhood. So all the children are bused to school every day. And so if a child misses the bus, that means they missed the whole day. So I made sure that she communicated to me when they missed the bus. Of course, mom with the depression and anxiety, she would oversleep at times and leaving the kids on their own practically. And so empowering the kids and mom to make sure that it was okay to call. It was not a bother. It was not, we knew that this was going on. In the meantime, I did check on mom often to see how the therapy was going, how things were going with her. We end up, therapy for the whole family. It took time. It took time, and it took, almost being on, every day checking on mom, and making sure that she felt safe, as you say, safe if they needed shoes, if they needed clothing, if they needed money to pay for phone service. And so eventually, mom got better, started working full time. She started coming to school again, engaging and creating a relationship between the principal and the teacher and mom. So everyone understood what was going on at home. And so sometimes I had to drive the kids to the clinic and meet mom there because the kids had an appointment. And the kids now, there's one in high school, the other one's in middle school. We have the oldest one in the youngest in 5th grade, but attendance got so much better. Now mom is driving, she has a car. And so that's, and she feels, she comes to school. If she has a day off, she volunteers at school. And so that's, it's a process, but it's one of the cases that have made me happier, because I've seen what difference we can make just by coming into a home and say, how are you? What can I do for you? Like, how can I help you? And it takes a team. It was not just me, the team of us, everyone understanding, and also family advocates and principals meeting with me and mom And, you know, if mom could not make it to school, we could come and give her a ride to school so she could be in the parent-teacher conferences, and providing Chromebooks to the kids so they could read. And of course, you know, making sure that as they arrive, I made sure that they were enrolled in the after-school program as well. So, and talking to the after-school personnel about the needs and what was going on with the family. Always asking mom, and I always did this with my families, asking the parents permission to share their story if I needed to, with the teacher or the principal. That's it. No one else, but yes, people that is key in the education and the bringing up of the children. Yeah.
Rosa, thank you, and I'm really happy. It sounds like a few on here on the Zoom as well in the session are happy you shared that story. I think hearing the stories in that journey, almost in a linear sense of step by step of what it needed, what needed to happen in order to get that family and those students to school, the support and resources that they needed, was really important. I thank you for taking the time and sharing that with us, and then saying that you asked permission to be able to share these stories that I hope are helpful. You also mentioned advocacy. I know one of the things we often hear family members is there's this a sense of vulnerability and sometimes intimidation of going and speaking to administrators and fully understanding what's happening with their child at the school site. I'm curious to hear from Callie and Deborah, like, what is the role in terms of advocacy? What is your role in terms of advocating? What does advocacy look like for family members?
From my perspective, in terms of advocacy, being that I'm the parent liaison, right? There is a lot of going between, we'll put it that way, teachers and parents, you know, at Tech. And what's really interesting is that I've been in the role for a number of years now, and the parents know, okay, if I can't get what I want, you know, kind of thing, it is about taking Deborah with me to address this with whomever we need to at the school. And I feel good about that, because that is about relationships, you know, as Rosa was saying, and it's also about generational. It's a generational thing as well, because you look at the impact, like the Rosa, like that one family that you have, that's the starfish approach. It is, you know, you save this one, so you will save many. But it's also, I look at it, John, as an opportunity in terms of advocacy, is when you have lived and when you have experienced a lot of things that our families have experienced, then you can go and advocate at a very different level. So like with me, I have had two sons that have gone through Oakland Tech, right? I've had one who took every AP class there was, you know, at Tech, right? And then I've had another one that says, Mom, you know what? My brain does not work that way. So please don't do that to me, right? So it is knowing your child, but it's also knowing, okay, that you can feel free to go to advocate for your student or for families. And it's something that I think that as you take them, you know, step by step, doing whatever that process is, that is so empowering. And what I love about it is that, as I said, that starfish approach is because when you look at various affinity groups, right, and you empower one, then you can empower others. And not only is it the families, but as I talked about before, is that the empowerment that we're giving the young adults at Tech is just admirable, I think, today, because that's where our true advocacy is, to be honest with you. It is the students, because they will not only advocate for themselves and for their friends, but also for their families as well, and the community. As you have, I'm sure you guys have heard a lot about the students walking out at Tech and doing a lot of things. But advocacy is something that's real and something that is encouraged at Tech.
Thank you.
Yeah, in my I'm working specifically at a school site, but I also do a lot of work that is more outward community focused. So similar to what Ms. Deborah was saying, I live and I work in my community. I live right around the corner from my school. I've lived out here for 15 years. So it's not just a place I go and I clock in, I clock out. The health and the wealth, the emotional wealth and the emotional health of our community, our families, our children. I take it to heart because this is my community. And so thinking a lot about, again, like our children, they grow up in programs, but they're really growing up in communities, and being able to have a sense of what our environment is offering to them, and how we can try to have an awareness about these environmental factors that impact our family's success, and how to tailor our services to the specific needs of our community. I'm operating at more of a decision-making level too. I'm a part of some really amazing district level committees that are a collection of CBOs and nonprofit work that is focused on policy and budget and bringing attention to the real needs of our community: food insecurity, transportation, mental health services. So trying to be as engaged as possible at the school level and build that bridge to the larger community to affect change in more of a policy driven way. I can't think of another way I could bring a voice and choice to our families than to get it in front of our supervisors, in front of the mayor, and get policy thinking about what we're really doing here to support our families and our communities.
Thank you for sharing that. So we heard from the school site level, from the community, from the policy level, right, with local officials, right, state officials. So thank you for naming all of that. Really important. As I'm sitting here and I'm listening and I'm putting myself maybe in a position of a partner, a site coordinator, a team member, I'm curious, like thinking about elementary school, middle school, high school, right? You have now built the trust of families, of students. You have, they know who you are. I'm curious the type of spaces that either you create or the type of spaces you think need to be created to engage families. Like literally, what is a space? How are you accessing family members and creating space for them to assess those needs?
John, I would say, again, having, being able to have a private space when they need to talk, having an open space when they need to meet and discuss an issue that is going on, whether it's at school or in the neighborhood, making them feel comfortable. And again, it's a family center, a family room, practically. Come in and be part of the conversation that needs to happen. Again, they both talk about, standing in front of the school board members or county board members, giving them the language, sometimes modeling to them how they can do it, empowering, how making them feel like, and I always tell them, like, we are your you are the ones that make the changes. We're here just to be the channel or be the the handoff. I can, if you need to talk to the principal, if you need to talk to the teacher, if you need to talk to anyone at the district office, this is what you should say. This is how you should write a letter if you need help. So again, making the space, having, it's a family center, it's a family room. This is your space. This is your,
Yeah. Thank you. And I love that you talked about giving language and giving opportunities for them to practice as you model what that would look like, whether they're talking to an administrator, a local official, or a board, school board, etc. So thank you for sharing that, Rosa. Callie, Deborah, any other, what kind of spaces, especially at the high school level, middle school level, like older youth,
Yeah, at Tech, it's really what I really like about the site is that we have multiple spaces, right? I mean, we have not only we have this one room, it's room 235, and families and students know that if I'm having just a bad day, or if I need to talk to a therapist, or if I need a psychologist or whatever, room 235 is our go-to space, right? It is like the safe space. But we also have, in addition to that, we have, so like they're on one side of the school. I'm in the middle, right when you come through the door, right? So people know that my office is right in our library/student center, that I'm there. We also have our nurses that are safe spaces, for students and for families. We have our counselors on wing, there. So we have a different spaces, and then far out where our portables are, we have our technical clinic that's there. So around the school, what I really like, and then like even after school, we have our after school program that Erin, oversees. I really like the various spaces, that physical spaces that we have there, which is amazing, right? But the other part of that, as we've talked about before, and Rosa talked about it a lot, and Callie, she definitely talked about it too, is that we also have that emotional space. And that, to me, is also very, very important, especially as we look at the whole ecosystem as this family. But in them knowing, again, that we have not only physical space, but emotional space for them is really important. And part of that emotional space, John, is us being available. So like with me, my cell number is blasted all over the school kind of thing. And students, they will text me at night, Miss Deborah, I can't go to sleep, and I told them, now I'm an 8-hour girl. I need to get that 8 hours for beauty now. So when you text me at midnight, you need to give me a couple minutes to get me together, that kind of thing. But yeah, I do. I give students, my cell number. They know that, and families know that, if I need someone to talk to, I'm your go-to. And sometimes, I have to refer them to other people because, to kind of share the wealth. But the emotional space is really important for us as well.
Definitely. I really appreciate how Miss Rose and Miss Deborah both framed that. There's that internal space and that external space that we're talking about. We at APG, middle school, if anyone works with middle school, whoo, it is a change from elementary school to middle school. And a specific space that we have come to rely on pretty heavily is our after school office, that we have, right next door to us is the wellness center. And the wellness center was kind of a new thing that started getting built up, but in collaboration with after school, it's kind of become a powerhouse where that's where our social worker is, that's where Nurse Judy is, that's where counselors work out of. Students know and parents know that is the safe space that you can go to if you need a break, if you need a resource. That is the external space that we hold, so you can come there and hopefully get some heart space as well from the staff that are there. I also just want to speak on meeting families, like where they're at for middle school too, really thinking about like, how do we even get these parents in the door? How do we promote to them that like this is their community school? And I think that food, fun, familiarity, childcare, swag, stuff we all get, those are kind of the building blocks of like starting to build out that trust. So when the big asks come later, right? The difficult conversations, the needs assessments, the surveys, the advocacy that needs to happen to drive this work, we can fall back on the relationships that we've built out, through, creating space that they feel welcome in and they feel safe in.
Thank you for naming all of that. This is really good, and I'm hoping that folks are taking notes. I know there are a few curiosities that I saw a couple of hands. We're going to get to those really soon, so keep, those curiosities either in your mind or take some notes. It's interesting, the spaces as we talk about that, and familiarity and as well as consistency. I know one of the schools we partnered with in Oakland, Life Academy Middle School and High School, family liaisons, they have coffee every Wednesday morning, 8 o'clock. And they've been doing that for years. And family members who can make it, great. Usually it's about 15, 20 family members. It's a way to assess needs. Most recently, we got an inquiry for family members wanting CPR. and first aid training in English and in Spanish. So we're going to support them with that as an example. So family members know because it's consistent. It's every Wednesday, 8 o'clock. Coffee will be there in the teen center. So that's great. I also, as I'm listening, get reminded, and I'm sure most of us have heard this, that when COVID hit and it was March of 2020, in April, I'm like, what are we doing? We got to use Zoom. But wait a minute, we're contacting students and we can't get in touch with them. Like, how do we get in touch with students and families? Oh, after school, expanded learning, they know how, right? Our touch points, our points of access, and we were an integral part, huge part in supporting families navigating, getting their Chromebooks, understanding how to use Zoom and other platforms. Like, I give kudos to us for that. So just as I'm listening, there we have two more questions, and then we want to open it up for curiosities. As we think about, we're engaging families, we're providing resources, right? We're assessing the needs. What is the potential impact of a student when family members are engaged and informed? And if you can share an example, what is the potential impact of a student? And Russ, I think you spoke to an example earlier, that impact of now students are showing up. One of them is in high school now. I'd love to hear other examples of the potential impact.
I think, for me, and this is something that literally just happened to me the other day, is the impact is generational, I think, based on this work that we do. Not only, and what I love about it is that, especially at Tech now, we have so many people that have graduated from Tech that are coming back now to teach, to give. In fact, our principal, his dad was the principal at Tech many years ago, and now he's in that role. Our community schools manager, she graduated from Tech, but we have, there are just countless examples of people who have gone through Tech that are coming back to give. And that is a very, very different perspective than someone that, that we're hired, quote unquote, from just off the street, that has not been part of the community, as Callie was saying earlier, is that I'm grounded. I have a foundation here. And I think that's so important. And I really see that the impact, yes, it's generational, but on our culture and climate of the school, that's where we see the most impact, I think. Because they've been there, they know it. But the other thing is that people trust them. They trust them because they know that they have walked and they have lived this same thing. And there's power in that.
Thank you for sharing that. Big shout out to Ms. Erin Walker, who's here as well, who's Oakland Tech graduate and the Expanded Learning Coordinator and our TACA statewide group adult leader now. So yes, Oakland Tech is an energy.
Yeah, another example I can give you is the after school program LEAP in San Rafael at San Pedro. Many of the program leaders are former students. So for me to walk into the office and then sometimes walking into the after school program, which is right next door. We're connected. We actually have a door that we can open, or sometimes it's open, so we can walk back and forth. And opening the door and seeing a young adult that used to be a student, and I met them when they were 6 or 7, and now they're at school doing and being part of the after school program when they were kids, and now they're leads, and they have a group of 20 students, and I see them work with the kids. To me, it's just incredible. I think it's a great feeling, and also sometimes coming back to me, they come back and say hi, and I had a student that came back and said, thank you. Thank you for getting me out of my house when I was not coming to school. And I'm like, I'm glad you're here, you're visiting. And she's like, no, I'm not visiting, I'm working at LEAP. I'm like, oh, better then. So that it's, you know, it's priceless to me. It's the best reward that I can receive from the work I do. Yeah.
Yeah, I absolutely echo all of that. It really is having them come back to you, you know, and really what it is, they're coming back to themselves and the version of themselves that hopefully you helped, you know, just had a small role in helping them get there. And it feels personal to me because you know, time and time again, the research shows that it just takes one caring adult in a child's life to change their trajectory, and to give them the support that they need to excel in whatever it is that they're driving at. And I think I was one of those kids that, like, you know, at home there wasn't a lot of communication and there wasn't a lot of support, but the people who changed my life and gave me models to look at what healthy communication can look like, what talking about feelings and vulnerabilities can look like, and using those things as my strengths, it changed my life. And now I'm one of those kids. I'm one of those kids who came back, and I was a program leader and a site coordinator, and now doing this work. You know, I know it changed my life, and so I know it's changing their lives as well.
I appreciate that. Curious to know if a participant right now is curious about starting up a family engagement program. What's something you wish you knew starting this work with families?
Ooh, I want to start because this one I thought a lot about is for me there's no greater strength than knowing thyself, knowing yourself, and knowing your own knowing my own feelings around family and what that means, and maybe my own biases, my own expectations, my own triggers, which have, you know, come up. This is really personal, heart-centered work, relationship-based work, and I think the more that you can know about your feelings and where you stand, and your structures that you're operating off of, the more you can challenge them, the more you can be aware of them and help yourself to grow in that way. And I think the more grounded you become in this work.
Okay, Kelly, on my little paper here, I had written for that question. Resist my biases and assumptions and see the gift of every scholar and every family.
Yeah.
I answered that for myself. And then I said, we wanted to make sure that we touch those most affected by life.
Yes, ma'am.
So I echo exactly what you're saying. But the one thing too that I think is important, there's this old saying that I got from somewhere, I don't know where. It says that we teach what we most need to learn. And so I think that in us teaching this, it's us learning it, but also, as we were saying, it's also then us having the opportunity to give back, which is really, really important. So to me, it's kind of like the whole circle of life. And that's what I see this as for us in terms of this work that we do, because our passion for this is beyond.
One of the things that I you know, that I wish I knew when I started this work was the timelines. There's no timeline in this work. It's always a constant, it's work in progress all the time. Yeah, and as both of them said, you know, like it's, yeah, seeing families creating the relationships it's an everyday thing. Like it doesn't end. It's not ending, not even when they leave school. You're all, you know, I still have families that text me with a need, like, what do I do? I have this problem. And they're not even at school anymore. It's 3 years since they left a school. And so it's, again, that's something that we need to be ready, and we grow with the work in progress. So yeah, it's a work in progress.
You know, the other thing I also believe, you know, guys, is that there's this holistic spiritual part. You know, I also think that that it's important to trust the process, because one of the things that I really try to do is that I always try to ask the universe, so what is it that I need or work through me for this individual, for this scholar, for this family? Whatever they need, if you can give me, send it through me. And with that, I think comes the patience that we need for this kind of work. So, you know, so I thought about that a lot, about what is that one thing that I wish I would have known. But I also now in my mature age, I'm saying I'm going to start trusting the process more.
Thank you for sharing that, for naming that. Lots of here. I heard a lot of here, right? Knowing who you are, your capacity, trusting. How are you the channel, the vehicle, right? The catalyst for scholars and for families. Thank you for sharing that. I'm curious to hear from the panelists, and I would also love it if the participants would dump it in the chat as well. You know, as we think about expanded learning specifically, right? All of us are working in some capacity with expanded learning programs. Talked about spaces, talked about resources. You know, on March 11th and 12th, we'll be heading up to Sacramento once again to talk to legislators around the importance of expanded learning and why there is still a need, right, for sustainable funding, equitable funding, and so on. I'm curious to know, like, as we think about the stories, what are some of the kind of reoccurring or more recent challenges that you know families are faced with right now? I know we've heard some of them. Like, what are you seeing as some of the pressing needs right now for families? I'll stop there, and we'll hear from the panelists, but I also want the participants, as you're listening, as you're hearing, as you're in communication with students and families, put in the chat box as well. We want to hear from everyone here. What's happening out there? So I see housing is one. Custody. Rising costs of everything, right? Like, panelists, as the chat's going, I'm curious to hear from your experience. What are you hearing? What's happening for family members out there right now? A lot of emotional support.
Yeah, for me, John, one of the things that I do at Tech, as well as I oversee what we call our student success team meetings. And that is where, but I think most everybody know what those are. And I saw in the chat, it talked about, custody and, divorce and all of that. And that has been something that lately that I've been experienced quite a bit at Tech with, parents that, yes, they want to co-parent, but one of the things that I really do at Tech is I also introduce this parallel parenting model, which is there as well. Mom's house, dad's house, that kind of thing. But the other part of that is in our workshops and teleseminars that we do, we address that high conflict. And the way that we address it is by ensuring that the parents is by putting together a plan for that student. Tomorrow night, we're having a Black Family Summit where I will be teaching this class called Parenting with the End in Mind. And the thing about the Parenting with the End in Mind is that it looks at 5 categories. It looks at the academics, it looks at the financial side, it looks at the physical side, the social emotional side, the spiritual side of families. And we address that in all of those things and putting together this plan, not only for the scholar, but for the family. And when you can put together that plan, part of the plan, as Rosa was saying earlier, is that we look at resources to help them to execute that plan. And so we're hoping that, again, we are addressing that entire ecosystem of that family, especially those that are in high conflict, so that we can make sure that they're on the same page.
Thank you. That's huge. Is that workshop open to anyone?
Of course.
Oh, maybe drop a link. We might have some interested participants in here.
Yeah, and what I'm going to do is that I'm going to have it recorded, so at least the audio is available to everyone, and I'll make sure that I send it out. And I think, John, I sent that to you yesterday, actually.
Yep,
Yeah. But the other thing too is, in terms of the whole cultural awareness, is that one of the things actually our scholars are doing is that they are looking at to specifically like the African American community or the Latina community or the Asian Pacific, all of the different communities. They are looking at what is it that we need as a community. And those are groups, affinity groups at Tech that they're forming, not only for their specific graduations, right, but just lifestyle. Right. So it is about, ensuring that, everyone's lifestyle / life / culture is respected. And I think that's part of it, because there could be needs, right, based on, cultural identity.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing all that. Anyone else in terms of like assessing what the needs are, what are some pressing, and how are we working through some of that?
Yeah, as Deborah said, when I was at school, again, assessing the needs and communication from teachers and administrations, and seeing what the need was, bringing the parents, parent education nights, cultural sensitive, like cultural relevant, making sure that that whatever the night was something that they will take home and practice. So nothing too complicated, nothing too, it's just being there, giving them the tools to take home, in a matter of, again, with heart. And just an example, John, we have this organization in Centerville. Its name is Moonai. And the first time I did parent nights, it was a series of 4, and again, providing everything that was needed for the parents to attend. So one was childcare, food, and the childcare was provided by the after school. So after school provided childcare. Also, the students that were in the after school program, we gave them a permission slip to stay after school and not take the bus home. They waited for their parents, and in the meantime, stayed in the after school. And then after that, they would have dinner. They would have, again, childcare provided by the after school program. And so the first presentation, we had about 40 parents. The second presentation, we had about 60 parents. At the end, at the 4th presentation, we had 100 parents. And we ended with a beautiful letter that the parents wrote to the parent, to their children, and this was asked by the presenter. And then she said, okay, we're gonna line up the kids now. We're gonna bring them inside, and you're gonna read that letter to your children. You just put your children on your lap, and you, because we Latinos, usually it's not very often that we sit with our children and to express our feelings about them, and like fully. We can say I love you, or just a quick, but nothing, not a conversation. So she said, write a letter, and then read it to your children. If you don't know how to write, because we did have parents that did not know how to write, just think of it on your head. And when you have your child on your lap, just tell them how you feel. We end up that series with tears from everyone, parents, children, staff, even the after school kids that, young, we were crying. So making sure that what you bring into the families is relevant, and it's cultural, sensitive, and respect, and again, if you're giving tools, making sure that there are tools that are going to be feasible and used at home. So yeah.
Thank you, Rosa.
Yeah, I guess I would end with, I feel like a lot of this falls under the umbrella, at least for me, about resilience. How do we help parents and youth become resilient? Managing stress and functioning well, when faced with challenges, adversity, trauma, violence. It's a lifelong process of enduring and growing through crisis and change. We can't prevent it. But we can help families become more resilient by providing an environment that's positive and validating, encouraging skills and that strength-based mindset, internal resources to help individuals cope when things do get difficult, and the everyday actions, the light touch in the spaces where families already are, connections and supports to outside resources if we can't provide it. Or more intensive services when they need it. So it's very nuanced, but for me, it falls under like, how do we help people be resilient?
Appreciate you naming that. Thank you. You know, it's lots of information, great information. Heard lots of strategies, examples, the impact, and you know, there's really a holistic community approach to this. And again, a lot of us, all of us, are in some way, shape, or form associated with expanded learning that beyond the bell, beyond the school day. What I'd like to do, it's 11 o'clock. We have about 30 minutes left, and I want to keep this as engaged as possible. I'm wondering if Leslie, you can maybe take us off the spotlight, put us back in the room together, where we can see the Zoom boxes. There we go. And I want to think about what are our curiosities and then potential possibilities, and not only for the panelists to be able to answer, but just for one another to be able to maybe come up with some possible examples for some of our curiosities. And you can either raise your hand and come off mic, love to hear your voice, or you can put it in the chat. Based on what you've heard, based on what you know, what are some curiosities or some thoughts you have that you want to share with the group here right now? And I know I saw some examples of some of the needs here, right? The emotional support seems huge. Shortages in after school, workforce and development, not only for the scholar, for the child, but for the parent as well. So what are your curiosities as we open this up? Mariana.
Yeah, John, before you jump into curiosity, I wanted to add I wanted to add a few connections for all the attendees here with the amazing examples, stories that we heard from the panelists today, and bringing it back to expanded learning specific, right? And reminding everybody that, you know, we might have schools where expanded learning is serving 70% of the school population, and other schools might be serving only 20% of the school population. Whatever that number is, you know that you are serving the highest needs of your school in expanded learning, right? Those are the kids that we prioritize. Those are the families that need that extra support. They cannot be at home with their kids. And we have an important role on being that connection in expanded learning between the school day and what happened in the family. And one of the things I have seen extremely successfully happening is when there is a very strong partnership between the expanded learning in the school day. For example, the after-school coordinator is part of the school culture climate. The after-school coordinator is part of the PBIS plan. Exactly what happens for behavior and climate guidance in the school is happening in expanded learning. One example I always love to give is a partnership, a very strong partnership created between expanded learning and the PTA at the school where Rosa was working, in which the PTA was struggling to fundraise because their events times didn't match the needs of the parents. So we said, okay, what about if we do this event during after school time? What happened is that we already have 150 students here that want to participate in these events, but can't because the parents cannot bring them to the event. And then we extend the time of the expanded learning that day, instead of ending at 6, ending at 7:30 p.m. So what happened? Parents arrive to pick up their children on Friday and they stay for an hour extra. And it's beautiful. It's a perfect marriage, right? So somebody asked there, how do we go about forming partnerships? The best way to go about forming partnerships is to know the needs of your community and be creative. Don't be afraid. If something I would like to know when I started working with families is don't be afraid. Be courageous. Be courageous because you are the person they need. They don't have another person at the school but you. So be courageous. And you will be surprised. What is the worst that could happen when you ask for something? They say no. Dun, dun, let's knock the other door. Can you help us get food for these families? Can you help us get donations for these families? Can we make this event? Sometimes, as Michael Funk likes to say, be in compliance, but don't be in compliance mindset, right? We know that we have to follow rules. We know we have to, but there's always a way to go around to serve the most vulnerable families. So I needed to make sure that I said this. And another example that I want to give on how to engage families and expand their learning is, guys, you're teaching the kids, you're supporting the kids with reading, you're supporting the kids with homework. I had parents when I was a site coordinator that will come and say, can I join homework time because I don't know how to use math ladders. I don't know how to do multiplication using ladders. Yes, please come. I have parents sitting down in the 3rd grade homework time, learning with their kids how to resolve math problems. I have students teaching their kids how to do coding because code.org is free and is in any language exists in this world, right? So we have a series of STEM activities with the students and ended with a STEM night with the parents where the kids were teaching their parents. What happened that night, Kelly, I think you said we have to build relationship, we have to leverage fun activities. Well, what happened? We have food, we have a STEM night, we have kids teaching their parents, and we get to respond a survey that will usually have a very low rate response. So creativity, right? There's no limits. I just wanted to put those things out there.
And I'm so glad you did, Mariana. Thank you so much for naming that, for calling and give those great examples. Yes, I see a hand from Courtney.
So at our school, we do parent engagement. I'm the site coordinator at our school in Fresno at Powers Ginsburg. We did an Olympic night. So what we did was we had our parents come out. And we started kind of late towards the end of our program at 5:30, and we went till 7:30. And parents came out. We had a lady come out that she does a lot of our DJing and stuff like that. And then we did parents versus the kids and staff and relays and made it into a fun Olympic night. And it really started off the year to a positive note, having all the parents out there. I'm now working on a literacy night. So now the parents will come and they'll go to like 3 different sessions with their kids and they'll do different activities and learn like what software is good for the kids so that they're just not on YouTube, and bringing out education into our parent night to knowledge them, because some of our parents aren't as knowledgeable as our kids are learning right now. And I think it's just because generations have changed. From when I was young, we never had computers, so we did everything handwritten, cursive. So I think it's important that the parents get to see what our kids are learning, and it is hard for them to come to during the day. So we try to do these evening projects, and I at least try to do 4 a year of different types, whether it's physical or English learning or something else. We try to bring all our families in to do that.
Courtney, thank you so much for sharing that. And I heard twice already in the past like 6 minutes or so that extended time. Most of us end our programs at 6 p.m. But it sounds like maybe on a Friday, ending around 7:30 allows family members to participate. So as we think about our program planning for next school year or even for the remainder of this year, something you may want to consider. And I'm guessing, Courtney, that you also have to have a committed team with you, right, that are willing to stay, and you have to budget accordingly, right, for that as well.
Right, my principals backs us 100%. We don't do it on a Friday night. We found that Fridays are not as promising because people
Okay.
like to leave out of town and stuff. So we usually do a Thursday night or a Wednesday night. And I send out flyers a month ahead of time, so that they can put it on their calendar, or if they need to, work their work schedules, because some of our parents do work night shifts, so that it's out there. And but at our school, we're a big family, so everybody comes out and enjoys it together. Our principal, our vice principal, and our teachers, we're all out there together. It's not just extended learning.
That's great. And thank you for naming that. So sometimes Wednesdays or Thursdays, so finding out what evening may work best. I appreciate that, Courtney. I love the Olympic idea. Anyone else? Any curiosities? Shared emerging promising practices as we're in this learning community together? Samantha, yes, I see your hand.
Hi, so I am part of the after school program, the expanded learning program here in Norwalk, California.
Uh-huh.
So we did start to have programs more with that parents can, come and see. So we had like a color run, and the parents were really excited to see the students, go through the color run. We had our program coordinator, our supervisor, we had, everyone basically just come in, and you can see like the looks on the students' faces of how happy they were to just see that their parents can come and just watch them, have fun and do like a little mini run. We also have like every month, we have the students have like a end of the unit display. So every 6 weeks, they are working on a different unit. This unit, we are working on many businesses, small businesses. So they are creating, their businesses. They have jewelry businesses. They have restaurant businesses. We bought them like little, we bought them the little jewelry kits. We bought them resin kits and everything. So we even taught ourselves how to do all that so that they can show their parents at the end of the unit what they did. And we've been doing that a lot where parents can come and they can see, and we'll end it at 6 o'clock or even 6:30 the latest, depending, because, like Mariana had mentioned, sometimes I'm not sure if it was Mariana, but like someone had mentioned that sometimes you have to extend the hours for parents because sometimes they may not always, be able to join. And parents just love the fact that we can extend the time so that they can see what their students are working on when they're not there with them.
Love that. Thank you so much for sharing that, Samantha. So we're hearing some practices, some things that our colleagues here and here's are talking and doing at their respective sites. Anyone else have a curiosity, a possibility, an emerging practice on how to engage families in a way that's meaningful? Miss Erin Walker.
I've just had like some of the ideas, and I've appreciated all the ideas that we've been giving from our panel, like the Olympic Field Day stuff that I've been talking with my team about. But something that I would like to take advantage of as well is using the mornings at Oakland Tech. We have a breakfast club, and I would love to incorporate like a wellness day. And I know, sometimes we can't always do every day of the week, but I think maybe once a week would be great to have maybe a breakfast or coffee with parents in the morning that do drop their children off early, or checking in with them, checking in with students. I do think those help start our day as well. And I love to collaborate with Ms. Deborah Carter Kelly on that, or at least get some ideas, just best practices for that. We can also utilize that time to just remind parents about the opportunities that our expanded learning program has, because we are beyond the bell both before school and after school, right? So we want to just take advantage of all those times, and also extending those opportunities to parents who can't pick those children up until way after, like at 7 o'clock. Like I've been talking to some of our partners on campus. They're like, you might think about extending towards 7 p.m. And I'm like, we might be able to do something, but that's why we need to collaborate. But just an idea, throwing it out there. I think mornings are also great.
Yes, I love that. And for those of us working in assets programs, and actually if you have ELOP now, right, it's like we can provide those morning before the bell opportunities. Imagine, Wellness Wednesdays. So before the bell rings, families come, do a little mindfulness, talk it out at Tech Tuesdays, something, we could talk about that. That's really, really exciting. Anyone else? I have one little nugget that I used to do when I was a program coordinator. We would do our positive phone calls home, and I would ask my team members to think about students who were doing really well or have a highlight during the week. And this was at a high school, comprehensive high school. And oftentimes team members would call family members, and the first thing we heard was, what did they do now? Well, they actually did something pretty amazing. Wait, what do you mean? It was like, oh yeah, and we give the specific examples of how their child showed up. And we'd have actually a template with a log. So I knew my team members, like, John called such and such's parent, got a response or left a message. And it was a really great practice. And it really made the difference, not only in the relationship between the child and the parent, caregiver, also the relationship between the team members and the parent and the child and the scholar, who next showed up the next day and was like, thank you for calling my mom or my dad or my grandma, because I got extra props last night, right? I got that extra piece of dessert, which I typically don't get. Just an example. So that was an emerging practice I'll share that I did when I was a coordinator at high school.
Yeah, and one of the things, John, which is amazing, is especially when the children or the parents are receiving calls about complaints, complaining about the children, and then he did this, he did that, and then the following day you make a positive call. It actually changes even the behaviors in the kids, because the parents are, and we always encourage, like, talk to your child and have them explain what they did good at school. And I'm talking about elementary school. Yeah, just that phone call can make a difference.
Absolutely. Anyone else? We have a few minutes left before we do an optimistic closure. They usually wait 7 seconds. The facilitators practice waiting. I'll share one more thing, because I get excited, I get juiced, and having been a group leader, instructor, coordinator, manager, etc. One of the things a few years back, I don't know if Miguel Ahmad is on here, but Oakland, we got a chance to participate in a Wallace Foundation CASEL, social emotional learning cohort. And one of the practices was not only for expanded learning in day school, right, to practice some of the CASEL wheel, right, the social emotional wheel, relationship building, etc. It was also, how do we get families involved? And one of the things we started to do was, when we would host our family engagement evenings or workshops, we led it in a way that we would lead, right, our workshops, our sessions, our day-to-day with students, with scholars. So we did a warm welcome, right? We shared language, and then family members were able to take that. We talked about the concept specifically of empty praise. Oftentimes we find ourselves saying, good job. Well, what does that mean really, right? So we actually modeled that, right, for parents. So we even have parents come back later and say, I told my son the other day, good job. And he said, Mom, for what? Good job for what, right? And the parent was challenged to name the specific. Good job listening today. Or good job staying resilient. Good job, staying on task and brushing your teeth, like naming it. So that's another example. Like, if you're holding spaces and you have access to family members, one example is to model some of what you're doing. The other thing is, as a practice, is a lot of us are doing great enrichment activities, right? We're doing some art, visual art, we're doing culinary arts, we're doing bike repair, we're doing dance classes, etc. We often invite family members to not only watch, but have the experience with them. One of it is our culinary arts program, a big culinary arts program where we invite families to be part of an Iron Chef competition as a judge, and then also be a partner with their child. So again, I heard some of that coming out as well. Will you create spaces for families to engage in the activity with their child to build that relationship?
John,
Yeah, John, I think that's.
Deborah?
Go ahead, Deborah.
I just wanted to share one other thing that as I coach families, is sometimes I start with something really basic, which is, how much fun are you having in your home? Do you guys laugh? Do you guys dance crazy? Do you guys do things? And sometimes, believe it or not, I start with some parents, because sometimes at home, there's so much tension. And so literally, we consciously, on a calendar, I have them literally schedule fun. And fun can be whatever it is. And the other thing is, based on their personalities of their kids, right? I have them look at, what's my child's love language? What's my child's apology language? I really have them get to know their child / them. And the other thing is about parenting the child that you have, right? Not who you were, not who you want them to be, but just accepting that. But the whole fun part of it, and I look at, having them look at the community. What's happening in the community that we could do as a family, right? For those kids that are introverted, right? What is it specifically do I need to do for them? Because I have one son that's introverted, one that's, extroverted, so I have to do different things as a parent. But the most important part of it is laughter, is fun, it's joy. And I think that if we can just get back to that in families, what comes with that is what I call carefrontations. And because what we don't want is that we don't want confrontations. And I just also remind families as well that all of us, we have what I call an emotional time bank. And it's really important that as families, that we really try to put as much fun, as much encouragement into our children before they cross that school. Because, when they cross the line and come into school, we're telling them to do so many things. But if they do not have enough joy and laughter and love already inside, then when we want to make a withdrawal, we get some negative stuff sometimes. But if emotionally, though, if we are so, satisfied, and we're pouring into each other as individuals, as families, the carefrontations are definitely there. We have a no put down zone rule in most families. That's another thing that I do. But the most important thing, as I said, is just making sure we're having family fun, and just make sure that your emotional time bank is full so that you may be of service to others.
That's beautiful.
Hashtag carefrontations.
Carefrontations, yes, absolutely. I just wanted to add a little thing, and I made a note for myself here, but another way for you in expanded learning to build these partnerships and do family engagement is the opportunity we have to gather data when we're doing the enrollment session, right, on the applications. So I have created a list of questions that I include with enrollment application, in where we know it's kind of like a mini intake, right? Like, what are the family needs? What are the strengths of this family? What does the parent think the strengths of the student are? And now I'm going to add this question of, how do you have fun in your family, right? But you add just 5 questions that are very easy to answer, that will give you some initial data that then you can work with your care teams, or with community school coordinators, or with the school counselors, to better serve the students. And it also will inform the events that you will have in your expanded learning program, or when you have a parenting orientation night, it will inform what are the topics that you need to get in there. That is something we're doing, and it's been really helpful at that, like, very entry-level need assessment.
Thank you for that, Mariana. I'm going to take a few seconds now and again open it up to anyone who wants to share anything right now, something you heard, an idea you want to try and may need a suggestion on how to move forward with that idea, possibility, a story you want to share. Again, for all of us here to learn from one another.
I have a question, actually. Is that okay?
Absolutely.
So, at our district DLAC meetings, parents on our district's kind of divided north and south side. North side, a bit more impoverished, south side, a lot more savvy and resourceful in terms of signing kids up for programs and such. The north side's been asking for paper applications for some time. And so we went back to paper, but I feel like the response is almost worse. And I don't know what else to do at this point. You know, we're actively trying to recruit, and I know they enjoy the program. We just don't know anymore, like, what else to do.
So, Esther, if I'm here, oh, go ahead.
I was gonna give you an example. So San Pedro, again, paper was the best for families. We thought so. And so, you know, we turned everything into applications and forms and links. And so it was hard for families to enroll and register. We have, and I don't know if it's something that you can look into your community organizations that could teach and help parents with technology. So we had a person from a community organization that would come to school and teach parents how to use technology and how to answer the surveys or fill out applications online. And that helped a lot. And us too, you know, having the parents come into the family center and say, we have coffee and donuts and sit down and we'll help you. And so it's, again, it's work. It's a lot of work, but eventually pays off. At the beginning, it's hard because, you know, they're not used to it. Some parents are afraid to make mistakes. And so, you know, we always say, you know, just what can happen. You fill out the application and sometimes they say, I filled it out, but I don't know if I did send it. Or I had parents that filled out the same application 6 times. They wanted to make sure that the kid was enrolled. So again, tapping on community organizations and getting as many resources as you can to teach the parents. And then after that, they're on their own and they do it. It happens.
Thank you.
Esther, at my school, what I'm actually, because we do all paper too, and we did online last year also, and I think it caused a big headache with a lot of our parents. My suggestion is for this year is at the end of the school year, at our school, we do open house, and I want to do a booth with some of my extended learning staff being there, helping the parents fill it out in advance for next year. So that's something that I'm bringing to the table with our program for this year coming up.
Thank you for providing that. We have 2 minutes left, and I want to honor the time. Out of curiosity, anyone going to be in person for the symposium at all on Thursday, Friday, Saturday? Anyone around for the in-person sessions? Some? Cool. In lieu of fun, I'm going to change up the optimistic closure a little bit. We have about a minute or so, and I'd like for us to think about based on what we heard, based on what we're feeling, based on this particular session, a song title, a lyric, or a movie title or a book title that best represents and says how you're feeling right now. And you could either put it in the chat box, or if you're feeling like, okay, the coffee kicked in, I'm feeling good, come off mic and sing that lyric or say that lyric or that title. All right, let's take a minute and think about what we received from each other this morning, from our panelists, right? Something we heard. And think about a song title, a lyric, praise. Lean on me. Yes. I love myself. Keep it going. Keep it going. Brown. We are family. Sister Slay. It's going to be a good day. Absolutely. Love. We'll keep it going. We will have the recording of